Masters of photography. Do they exist? Well, I've been at this game 20 years plus, and I've got to say, I've come across a lot of really good shit of photographers, but I've never come across a master of photography yet. Let's talk about it. So welcome back to episode 26,332,000,000,000 gazillion jillion of the Lance Burkitt Encounter. Absolutely glad to be back. Lovely to speak to you all. It's only episode 26 really, but I guess we're coming up on just a year. Is it a year or so since I started this thing? We came back from New York last April, set up the unit with my bro. Logan had the brain fart for me to stop blogging and start talking, so I did that. Yeah, it's about a year ago. So 26 episodes in a year, that's one every couple of weeks, isn't it? That's not bad for somebody who's absolutely shy on time. I mean, completely. My time doesn't exist. So I'm quite pleased that I've managed to get 26 episodes in a year. If you remember on the New Year episode, January, I said I was going to try and do one a week. That's not happened yet. But I am going to try and do more than one a fortnight, and I'm going to interlude those with little shorter versions of each podcast to give those who don't have an hour to spare, just want to hear the basics or the nub of what I'm talking about, little 10-minute snippets of that. So that's the plan for the show moving forward, to have a full hour or so podcast once every week, 2 weeks, and in between interlaced with little snippets of the podcast to help people kind of keep up and learn a bit of something new, hopefully. So today, I was spurred on last week to think about this, and it came off the back of me looking at competitions, and I'm going to do a podcast episode over the next couple of weeks about calls for entry and the horrendous amounts of rip-off competitions there are for people, and also how the good ones are very what's the phrase, snobbish, very elitist, and exclude many working class photographers, but that's for another day. But whilst I was looking for that, I kept coming across the phrases like master photographer and genius photographer, and statements like, they're so above other photographers and they're living, and I just think, what a lot of fucking shit. I know some photographers who will outmaster most of the masters, the supposed masters, but you've never heard of them. They got 30 followers on Instagram because they just take pictures for the love of doing it and the craft of doing it. So when I hear the regular names, some of the names, I mean, I'm going to slag anybody off, the good photographers, but master photographer, come on. Most of the masters of photographers who are purported to be masters are so sucked into one genre or one area. Anybody, if you're doing something that niche for that many years, should become fucking good at it. And if you haven't, but master, I think the amount of master photographers that's purported to be across the world on all continents from all backgrounds is just bullshit. There are some photographers who have got more experience, who do what you call high level quality work that's repeatable, but masters, come on. So today I wanted to talk about that, and kind of I've kind of realised over the years that these kind of the people that live in that kind of terminology come into two categories. And before I get into that, I just wanted to talk about, I was reminded recently of a saying, those who can do and those who can't teach. And that makes my fucking teeth itch. It makes me want to grab whoever said it and shake them by the neck, because it's aimed at photographers and creatives, artists, fashion designers. It's aimed at people in the creative industries a lot. And also I've heard it spoken about motor mechanics and engineers, where there's some kind of, I guess it aligns with the master photographer. If you don't make it in the public eye as a photographer, then you've not attained true status, and you must go off and teach. But it's a load of bollocks, because me as a teacher, I started teaching while I was still working as a full-time photographer, and I did it because I enjoyed doing it. I can't stop talking, you might have guessed. I can't stop telling people how to improve, learn new stuff. That's how I became a teacher. Not because I was crap at photography, not because I couldn't get any work as a photographer, but because I enjoyed doing it. And most people I've come across get into teaching for the same reasons. There's occasionally a little bit of, there's not a lot of freelance work in areas where they live, or there's not a lot of jobs in the areas where they live, so they diversify and become teachers. But they can only be fucking teachers because they were damn good at what they were doing in whatever walk of life it was. You can't really teach photography to the level that's expected, whether you're doing it as a tutor, freelance, or whether you're doing it in a college or a school or a particular university, and not know what the fuck you're talking about. So, winding back a bit, that saying of, those who can do and those who can't teach, just fuck off. Go look in the mirror, give yourself a good hard look, then slap yourself round the face and fuck off. Because most, if not all of the teachers I know, particularly in the creative arts, can fucking really do what they're doing. And that's why they're employed as teachers, and that's why they keep teaching for years. Not because they can't do it, because the ones who can't do it get found out pretty fucking quickly. In fact, students are the best for finding out people who don't know what they're talking about. They will find you out, particularly college educated. In the UK, that's like 16 to 18s, and then university level, which is 18 upwards. Those kids, they'll find you out and crucify you. If you don't know what you're talking about, you're done in 5 minutes. So, aligning that with master photographers, most teachers I've come across, not just teachers as well, technicians, photography technicians, have to be fucking good. Otherwise, you're found out and you're done. So if you do hear anybody saying anything like that, anything derogatory about photographers, and they only teach because they can't do it, whoever said it, tell them to go and have a good look in the mirror, have a look at their own work, and then tell them to fuck off. So masters of photography, the myth. There's two schools, or two types of people. Am I saying that right? There's two kinds of people that I come across that live in that world, and they're the ones they're your regular photographer who's attained a certain level of success, maybe gets semi-regular publications, or even really regular publications, might have won the odd competition, gets a couple of front covers, suddenly touted as a master photographer. And more often than not, they're in a niche, they live in a little pocket. And then there's the other types, who are the ones who predominantly, I think, frequent internet forums and that kind of world, where they spend their whole lives sucking up to the people who they see as being great geniuses, masters of photography, and spend their whole time trying to build everybody up to want to be like them, creating a little niche flow, so everybody goes, oh, I want to be Steve McCurry, oh, I want to be Ansel Adams, oh, I want to be David Bailey. And they spend that much time trying to do that, they never achieve fuck all. They never get their own style, they're just photocopying, and becoming very stale and very boring and very mediocre and very samey. And it stops people trying to be themselves. And I've said this on other podcasts, that if you're not going to be yourself, why bother? I mean, it's one thing to be influenced by somebody, but it's another thing to want to be them. And I often think that actors must find it really difficult, because we all have our favourite actors, our favourite singers, our favourite everything. But as an actor, if you're inspired by someone as an actor, you've got to be very, very careful you don't start mimicking them. Imagine, I don't know, let's say I'm a big guy, I become an actor, I go to auditions, and Jack Black's my favourite actor. I've got to be very careful not to start acting like Jack Black and having his mannerisms and his approach. And it's the same for photography, it's the same for any art form. I've said a million times in this podcast, David Bailey's probably my favourite photographer. And you can see in my work I've been influenced by him. In fact, I'm going to do a podcast probably next week about top 5 photographers that I think are the top 5 photographers, and Bailey will be in that. And you can see my influences from David Bailey in my work. But more than that, it's his approach that excites me. But I haven't become David Bailey. I haven't started talking with a Cockney accent. I haven't started being really harsh to people. I haven't started being too honest, although some people do say I am quite honest. Every photograph I do, I'm not trying to make it look like a David Bailey photograph. I'm trying to make it look like a Lance Burkitt inspired by photograph. And all these two kind of sections of people, the the suckers of the masters and the ones trying to get people to be like the masters, or you can't be any good unless you look like that, they would end up probably walking, talking, thinking, acting like David Bailey, because they think that's going to make them as popular. And inspiration shouldn't be about that. It shouldn't, should it? Inspiration should be everything from the visual to the buzz. And what I mean by that is, I did a photo shoot recently for a young local model called Liv, and we discussed beforehand what Liv wanted to do, and it was kind of how can I phrase it? It was kind of like empowering females to be sexy without slutty, or sexy without glamour, just standard sexy kind of, jeans and bra shots, confident, independent women, that kind of shot. And I was kind of inspired a little bit here by Richard Avedon, and Avedon kind of creeps into my work quite a lot because I was always influenced by how well he did stills that looked like they were moving. And I think that kind of energy you bring to a shot is difficult to attain and to keep. I don't know, to make it look like your own work, like you're not copying, but to make it feel like it was an Avedon inspired shot is something I've tried to do in some of my work across the years. Not always, because I draw influences from many places. I'm just trying to look on Pinterest for the mood board. I fucking hate. Honest to God, I hate Pinterest. There were kind of that kind of inspiration of not nude, not overtly sexy, but confident female, a little bit of movement in there, even though it's still the movement in this shot. I used some, just put some stands up to make it look like there was a window with some movement, and it wasn't. It was just some light stands. But that kind of inspiration from Avedon kind of crept into that shoot, and Liv sent the ideas initially, and she sent a couple of Avedon pictures in with her inspiration, which was quite nice to see a model kind of looked at that kind of way of thinking about the shoot. But I wasn't trying to copy Avedon specifically. I was just going back through my own experience, what I created before, trying to do something a little different, but still being influenced by the great Richard Avedon. But all of the pictures we used for our mood board, we didn't actually shoot anything like any of them. It was just a reference. And it's just a little kick to your brain when you're working, you're setting up, you're getting tired, you're having conversations, you just want to make sure you're still on the right lines of what you suggested in the first place. So you've got a mood board to refer to, but we never actually copied any setups, we never did anything. If you look at the mood board, in fact, I'll dig it out and show it to you on the screen. If you look at the mood board we actually used, doesn't really look like anything we shot. It was just a ballpark, and that's for me what inspiration should be, to give you the buzz to create what you're happy with. And if you're spending all of your time trying to perfect what you're doing to what you've had in the mood board, you're going to be disappointed, because if you use, I don't know, let's just, for an example, the Beauty and the Beast shot of Richard Avedon, where he's got the French model's name escapes me, laid down with the snake, and the snake just comes up and whistles in her ear. If you're trying to recreate that exactly, you're going to be disappointed, because you're just never going to get there. You could have fabulous model, fabulous snake, similar lighting, similar black, you could do all that stuff, but you're not Richard Avedon. You weren't there at that time and place. You're copying something which was great, so you've got a bit of pressure to try and make it look exactly the same, if not similar, and you will never get there. You'll end up with a big piece of shit that looks nothing like it, that looks like you've tried to copy them with none of your own style, influence or stamp on it. what's the point in that? What's the point in spending all that time, effort to get to a place where you just made a mediocre piece of work where you've clearly copied somebody? Makes no sense to me. So you're being influenced, or you should be influenced, but you shouldn't be copying. And that's where I think a lot of photography falls down. And quite often that's where these two people in these two camps, the lovers of the masters and those who are trying to attain what the masters do, get stuck, because they're so swayed, so in love with the person they perceive to be a master, that they never get to that level, because how can you? The original will always be the original. Now you get music's another place to talk about copying. I mean, it's actually quite strange, isn't it? Because music, we get cover versions of famous songs, and sometimes, depending on your opinion, they might be better. Very rarely. But in photography, if you copy somebody that closely, you get called a thief. And it's a different medium, I know, but it's a strange one, isn't it? So, a Richard Avedon portrait, Davima with elephants, let's say. When Rankin attempted to copy that for his, what was it called, 7 images that changed fashion or whatever he did, which was awful. And the model he used, what's it called, Erin, I'll put that on the screen, I can't remember. Lovely, great model, very similar to Vima, but fucking terrible picture. And that, I think, came about because of the awe-inspired Richard Avedon shot he was trying to copy. They got nowhere close to. In fact, the whole set he did ranking on the 7 images. I think it was called the 7 images that changed fashion. Might have been a BBC thing in the mid 2000s. He got nowhere close on any of them. The one in the French Street, I think, was probably about the closest one. I can't remember whose photograph that were. It might have been. Who was it? It wasn't Brits, was it? But anyway, trying to copy is a dead end for creatives. Unless you're a musician, then you can copy, put your own slant on it and get away with it. Make millions, it seems. Photography doesn't quite work that way. So, be inspired, but eventually you've got to create. Eventually you've got to create from within, because it's your persona, your personality, your energy, your gift, your experience, your sentiment, all those things that come together in a day. That's what will make your pictures. And if you're trying to be somebody and create something exactly like somebody else, you're going to fall headfirst into a big steaming pile of shit and come up with nothing, and you will never attain godlike genius status because you're too busy trying to imitate other people. And that's one of the kind of frustrations for me, is that I have my inspirations, I have my preferences, but I'm not that heavily influenced by any that my every waking moment is trying to be like them or try to be better than them. All I want to do is drink in what they've done, what floats my boat, chuck it around in my head and my creativity, and output it with my own likes, my own experience, ability, craft, and try to make something which might occasionally be clearly inspired by, but is different, because I'm fully aware that my own time, space, place, people, aptitude, all those things that you need your own versions of are what come together to make the pictures that you're trying to make yours and not carbon copies. Hence why I find it difficult to do things like pack shot and e-commerce and that, because you're pretty much just a photocopier. But it frustrates the life out of me when I hear. I could give you a long list of people, but I'm not going to. You know the people I'm talking about. Any photographer who's listening to this worth of salt knows that list of people who are purported to be a master of some photography genre. And there are some fucking awesome photographers out there in many genres. And by awesome, I mean can deliver what they said they'd deliver time in, time out. And it appears to be like an act of magic, like a natural phenomenon. Natural magic, shall we say. But it's not. It's through hard work, endeavour, inspiration, craft, and fucking repeating it and banging their head against the wall for days, weeks, months, years. Getting out there and shooting it, putting themselves in a position where they can attain it because they've worked for it. And those two camps I keep referring to of the God lovers and the we must get up to the God-like loving table don't do enough of their own thing. They're too busy trying to achieve godlike status by literally copying, and it's never going to work. It frustrates the absolute fuck out of me. I see it with some students and I try to teach it out of them as quickly as I can. It's great to be inspired by. It's great to have influences. But use it, abuse it. David Bailey said the key thing that I had on one of the documentaries he did when he got asked about, does he mind whether people borrow his work? He's like, or copy his work. He's like, no, don't copy it, fucking steal it. That's it, isn't it? Look at it, enjoy it, take it in, make it your own. Steal it, make it your own. Don't borrow it. Because if you're borrowing something from somebody, you're always going to take it back, aren't you? And then you get caught between the halfway of doing it well, doing it properly, or not fucking doing it at all. So don't borrow, steal. Steal, reshape it, reform it, add your own ideas, your own background, your own creativity, the person, the thing you photograph, and the time, day, place. Make it your own. Spin it round and churn out what you perceive as to be your best work. Maybe the initial idea or the initial inspiration came from that, but by the time you get to your version here, there's more of you in it than that. And you're never going to attain that if all you do is worship godlike figures because somebody in a magazine or somebody on a TV show or somebody was judging a competition and decided XYZ people are the pariahs. They're the people you've got to be that good. Until you get that good, you're a nobody. You're worthless. And there are hundreds, probably thousands of these kind of photography types out there who people call the masters. I mean, the fact that the show is called Masters of Photography makes me want to fucking shoot the TV with a 12 bore. Because I know there are no masters. There are some fucking very good photographers out there, but none of them are masters. And I'll talk you through why none of them are masters now, because I know in my 20 plus years as a photographer and everything I've learnt, forgot, relearnt, forgot, relearnt again, forgot. Mistakes I've made, continued to make. The achievements I've had myself, the quality I can attain repeatedly doesn't make me a master. It might mean I'm very good at some things, better than others. It might mean I can give you what you've asked for, what you've paid for. But I guarantee you, I'll know somebody, or somebody will know somebody who can do that thing slightly better than me. Or maybe better is the wrong word, maybe slightly different and it's more exciting. So I'm quite happy to admit that I'm not a master of photography, that I'm not a guru, that I'm not a genius. I'm just a damn good photographer who knows what he's doing, who enjoys what he's doing, who delivers what's asked. But the key thing to all that is I am always, always, always learning. I never stop learning. And I think to sit there and pretend that you're a master of photography means you've stopped learning, because by definition, you're a master of something when there's nothing else to learn. And photography and life, if your photographic life has got you to a place where you're no longer learning, where everything you do is perfect, where everything you do, I mean, how do you get excited about that? How can you get excited to go to a studio full of creative people, walk in and go, yeah, I've mastered this. This is going to be easy. How can you enjoy it? How can you really go there, enjoy it, and give it your best if you think you're not going to learn anything that day? The only thing you're going to learn that day is how fucking good you are. I think that's the wrong attitude. I think that's the wrong way to keep up high up there as a good photographer, as a respected photographer, to keep learning. And we'll dip into that a little bit further now. So yes, masters of photography. So I'll take myself as an example. I've been doing photography since 2005. Started off with no clue what I was doing. Pretty quickly learned what I was doing. Pretty quickly learned that the people around me were hiring my studio, didn't know what they're doing, so I started teaching as a little side to learning. So I'm still learning myself. I'm teaching, passing on knowledge. Finally get to a point where I can take commissions and create work which is repeatably good. So I know what I'm doing. Constantly evolving my practice in terms of thinking, in terms of shooting approach, in terms of backing up pictures, editing techniques. Eventually, after 7 or 8 years, I kind of settle on a workflow which works for me, which means I can repeat, I can do things quickly, I can do things efficiently, I can do things and still enjoy it. But I've been published in the UK, been published in some quite high-end British publications. I've photographed some well-known British actors, musicians, but I'm not a master of photography because I've still got more to learn. So in 2015, to become a better teacher, really more than anything, I went and studied a master's degree at Nottingham Trent University and realised that when I walked in the door and sat around the other academics that I knew absolutely fuck all about the wider aspects of photography. I was so ingrained in the technically good stuff, being technically great and doing that. I hadn't really considered narratives and how you can present things and how you critique a picture. It wasn't really something that kind of like entered my sphere really as a practitioner and as a teacher. So I learned over those couple of years really how to get to the nub of what photography is, what it can be, what it should be outside of the technical realms of good craft. And that's when my eyes really started being open to the possibilities in photography and the fact that you can never be a master of it because there's always fucking much more to learn. One of the things I learned a lot about during that time was I was heavily fixated on composition. And I remember saying to one of my tutors there, a great tutor, Karen, a German lady called Karen, and she was Katya, and she was very kind of like steadfast in her. And I said, I'm not sure about the composition on that, and her response to me was pretty much fuck composition. And I thought, what does she mean? Composition's everything. That's what the masters do. But then she explained to me why it wasn't important. And I thought, fucking hell. I'm so far off considering what photography is that I need to pull up my socks and learn, or rather unlearn some stuff to enable me to move forward and to become a better practitioner. So from that point I did, and what I mean by that is I didn't stop making sure compositions were good in my pictures. I made sure the compositions were relative to the pictures. So an example for that might be if you're photographing a human and you're doing a headshot and you want them to be kind of make sure they're centered, then you would, like the shot of Liv here, you would do it. It's a pretty standard headshot where she's centered in the page. It's nicely split into the rule of thirds. If you look, you can see that. That's kind of like your traditional, well-composed, if you like, picture. And that's all I was doing around the mid 2013, 14. I wouldn't have gone very far outside of that. And then if we move forward to now, and if we look at my work from Athens, street photography, slightly different thing, I know. But if I'd have taken this shot, I don't know, 10 years previously, I would have had a good pop at myself for not having her in the centre and it being off kilter and not being composed well. But now I understand better why composition doesn't have to be perfect, why composition is ultimately important, but not important at all. Now I understand that better. It's enabled me to, I think, create more interesting pictures. Certainly create pictures I would never have created previously. And it's typical in it. I can't find the picture now. I'm trying to show you, but I'll pause here and come back. So yeah, this picture on screen now. She's like tucked in the right hand corner even. Not squared up, not centred. Even slightly out of focus because it was a from the hip shot. But I would never take it. I certainly wouldn't have used that picture 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago, bloody hell. Because I would have been thinking that composition's shit. But now I think the composition's fucking perfect. Because I caught her in the act of taking a picture with a rangefinder camera, I think it was. Her and a friend were using, also one had a Polaroid, she had that one. And the old me, the hooked on perfectionist trying to be a master me, would have not done that. I would have been going, oh, I just square that up a little bit, just bring it to the centre, square, bang, done. Now I'm happy, but following doing the masters and talking to people and critiquing pictures, heavily critiquing pictures, made me realise that that's the way to take that kind of picture and not get sucked into the perfection of the picture of Liv, which I showed you before. That's the wrong way to go about thinking about composition. And I guess some of it will lead itself to what you're doing and what you're thinking about, what you're trying to achieve and what you're trying to say. But it's not copying anybody. But I think quite often, until you've stumbled across that way of thinking, that way of critiquing images, that way of looking for more than just the pleasantries in an image. Is it in focus? Is it nicely lit? Is it composed? Well, once you go past that, that's where the real interesting stuff. And that's probably, in all fairness, where the masters, what you might purport to be masters, hang out in those kind of areas. And so I started hanging out in those kind of areas 10 years ago. So halfway through my photography career to where I am now. I'm not saying that before that my work was shit, but it was certainly different. And my approach was different. My thinking, my stresses about it were different. I'm much more relaxed now. I take much better, I hate that fucking word. Take much different pictures now because I'm not as uptight about the composition and about making sure it's perfect. But that all came off the back of me reaching for something new, trying to become a better practitioner, trying to become better at talking about photography, trying to understand more about what photography is, what it could be, what else is happening in the picture other than the subject. And I wrote quite early in the master's degree, I wrote an essay on this image. Eddie Adams. Where he's about to get shot, where his head's actually been shot. This picture. So I wrote an essay on this picture. And the advice from my tutor was talk about the photo literally. And I thought, I don't know what it quite means. So I thought, I know, I'm going to explain the photograph to somebody who's blind. So what I started doing then, when I was reviewing my own pictures as well as teaching how to take pictures, taking pictures myself, I would get a picture and I would isolate things and I would literally describe the picture as if I was telling it to somebody who was blind. Now, Eddie Adams claims that this picture's like, I think I read that the bullet's already hit the guy, or the bullet was about to, I can't remember what it was, but it was quite grim. And it does make you very uneasy, this picture. It's quite an uneasy thing to kind of like talk about and get around now, even though it's so many years later. But when you explain that picture literally, I mean, you got to understand the technology, 35mm camera probably, in the field, roughly guessing exposures, It's slightly out of focus, probably because the shutter speed. There's movement, everybody's moving in. The guy's flinching. The guy about to shoot him has just lifted his arm up. It's not staged. It's very of the moment, and so technically, you might say it's not the best picture. When you go past that and look at it literally, there's a youngish man with a check shirt who's pulling a face with his arms tied behind his back, who looks like he's frightened and he's squirming at something. There's a guy stood next to him with a army jacket on, which is covered in crap, with a pistol pointing at the guy's head. Clearly he's either trying to scare him or he's about to shoot him. There's a soldier to the left of that who looks quite pensive. It looks like, God, is he going to do this? No, that's how it looks to me. And then you go past that and look in the distance, it looks like there's some kind of a bus coming towards you, bus or a truck. So what were those people thinking? There's a couple of people walking in the distance, walking behind. There's somebody between the two soldiers on the left. There's a head there, somebody coming. So this is like happening in the street, where people are just walking out. And I'm not going to give you the history of the picture. You can read about that yourselves. But once you start looking at photography like that, start looking at all photos like that, all photos have narratives, even if it's just somebody stood on a white paper background like some of the stuff Avedon did. There's a story in the picture, in what they're wearing, what colour their hair is, what tone the skin is, how many wrinkles they've got, what colour the teeth are, what piercings. There's always stories. And once you start experiencing that and bringing that into your own photography, that's when you're raised up to what people call egotistically master's level or genius level. And there's nothing mastery or genius about it. It's just better practice. It's more wide open practice. You've come out of your kind of shell almost. I knew I was good technically back then. I knew I could shoot portraits, fashion, beauty, all that stuff, piss easy. I could do a bit of street photography, I could do landscape, I could do all that to a good degree then, technically. When I went past the technical and started looking through the visual, the narrative, that's when my photography jumped up 100 notches. And reverting back to what I said earlier, that I think the people in the two camps, that you're going to be like this camp, and I want to be like that camp, get so fixated by the picture style they're trying to copy, they haven't thought about the content of what they're trying to emulate, and that means that they never achieve anything further than copying. So the big thing for me is when I look back at my pictures from 10, 11 years ago to those 7 or 8 years ago, that 2-year transformation period of what I made and did during my master's degree, I think my work's night and day. In fact, my wife, who was my biggest critic, often says that to me: when you did your master's degree, your photography changed massively. Some of that is because I shot it all on 35mm medium format and some large format film to challenge myself aesthetically and technically. For the first few months of that, I used a digital camera as a crutch, but my tutor, Hugh Hamilton, said to me, ditch the crutch, Lance, because you're just not learning anything, you're not going anywhere. I guess I had fear of failing. So I'd shoot on film and then just shoot digital just in case, and that's just bullshit, innit? That's just fucking ditch it. Come on, get on the horse or get off the horse. And when I did that, my practice again improved, because I was actually thinking about what I was doing, not trying to wing it, not trying to fudge it, not trying to guess it. I had to get it right. Film's not cheap, paper's not cheap, and although I was lucky I had access to a lot of that stuff and my own access to a industry standard darkroom, which made things a lot easier, I still needed to practice because I hadn't shot film for a long time. So 2 years of shooting film, thinking about new narratives, looking at things differently. An example would be that project for my masters ended up being all about me as a dad. I've told this story before in other podcasts. I had a knee operation, couldn't get about much, just shot in the back garden. The interesting things to me in the back garden was the washing on the line. That project, washing on the line, shooting it with film, became a project all about me as a dad, domesticity, the kids, all that kind of stuff. That would never have happened if I hadn't had that conversation probably with Kathia. I would have probably still been trying to become a better headshot photographer, which I didn't need to do. I didn't need to become a better headshot photographer. I needed to understand narrative better. And once I started understanding narrative better, my photographs became more interesting. My compositions became more interesting. My whole kind of photographic body of work was lifted up a lot of notches. And none of that was through copying anybody. It was through being inspired by new ways of looking at pictures. And one of those within that was Stieglitz work. I can never spell. If I could spell, I'd be dangerous. Do you know that? Mr. Stieglitz Equivalents, for a start, when you look at his equivalent stuff. I've been doing photographs of the sky for years, but I was just doing it because I thought those clouds look interesting. And as you know, because I've spoken about it in previous podcasts, I see things in contrast, so I'm seeing the sky in contrast. But when I read about equivalents from Stieglitz and Stieglitz's approach to photography and about how he was trying to get photography as accepted as an art and was struggling, people didn't want any photographers there, it's not art, it kind of rung true with me. And I thought, fucking hell, Stieglitz is a genius. He understands it, he's got it. But I could then start to see some of that in my own work as I was progressing. And it is about that representation of what you've seen and the story you've seen and trying to transpose that onto other people. And again, I didn't change my style of shooting skies after I looked through Stieglitz's work. I think I just understood better what I was trying to do and what I could kind of put a label on it, if you like, what I was trying to achieve with it. And he's saying that this is the equivalent to what I saw. Well, that's what I was trying to do. I just didn't know it yet. And once I understood that, I think I understood that better because my pictures didn't get better. They just meant more to me, and I think I then put more of me into them, and they got more recognition following that, which I don't quite understand how it relates, but I think it does. I think the realization I had myself, what I was doing and why, what the narratives I was trying to say and why, once I really understood that, the pictures held that better. Does that make sense? So it comes back to creating from within and not imitating, not taking what you've seen, digesting it and regurgitating it without your own slant on it. It's about understanding narrative, understanding the tech issues you face, understanding, I think probably the biggest part of it is understanding when you shoot, particularly on digital, the pictures are going to be flat and not ready for you straight off the camera, whether you're shooting JPEG or whether you're shooting RAW. There's always needs to be something you add to them to get them to be how you saw it, because digital cameras don't do that. And yes, there are some people who are purists and I just shoot on digital, I don't do it, bullshit. You're missing a trick if you're not processing your pictures properly, because it's no different. In fact, I'll go through this in a couple of days when I do my next podcast about my top 5 favourite photographers and the processes some of them use to make their pictures appear in the final print, how they looked. It's something I've always done. Wasn't influenced by any of those guys to do it. It's just something I've always done because I realised always that pictures never look like I thought they looked when I was taking them. So I knew I had to do something. Said it before, I learned a lot of skills from a guy called Guy Gowan through following his seminars and whatnot. Still use most of those processes now, develop some of my own off the back of that. But I know when I'm shooting what I have to do in the edit to make the picture be what I wanted it to be. And I've taught that if you look back through the other 25 episodes I've done already, there's lots of that in there. Same process, same outcomes. And it's about the craft, isn't it? You've got to understand how a camera works technically. You've got to be technically proficient. I don't think, with the odd exception, the people who are called master photographers or genius photographers understand how a camera works and can use it. There's a couple of them I'm not quite sure because there's a lot of assistants around doing stuff. So, but outside of those, I would imagine most of them know how a camera works and how to get the best out of it. The visualization side of it, the seeing it, only comes, I think, through once you have the penny drop moment of fucking hell, there's more to a picture than just a picture. What's the narrative? Once you start to understand narratives from all pictures, Not just does Auntie Mary look good, and is the light nice, and, oh, can you remember that car that we used to have? Once you get past all that, that's where the real storytelling is, and that's where the genius is. You put those two together with the end product, which is your digital darkroom now. If you're not doing that bit, or you're getting that bit wrong, you lose all of what you've done. So it's important for those three things to marry up for you to get to your final pictures where they raise up. And it don't matter whether you've got one follower on Instagram, whether you get one like or you get 1 million. That's your process that you have to attain. I'm not going to say greatness, I'm not going to say genius, I'm not going to say mastery. I'm going to say you have attained a level where you can reproduce great work all the time. And then the cherry on the top of that is keep learning. Just keep learning. Just keep learning. Stop trying to be the best. Stop trying to be like David Bailey, like Richard Avedon, like Ansel Adams, like Herb Ritts, like Steve McCurry, like William Klein, whoever it is. Stop trying to be them, be you. Suck all the influences in. Learn those processes. Practice, make work. Become proficient. Become the best that you can be. And work will come to you. And you'll get recognition. And I might do another podcast on recognition and how that is. What is success? Well, for me and for most people in this day and age, success is getting out of the fucking bed in the morning and doing something. And going to bed at night, surviving. That's success. But success as a photographer depends how you measure it. I'll go through that on another podcast. But really, you stop trying to be the best. You're trying to be yourself and be the best self you can be as a photographer. Create the best work you can do as a photographer. That's where the real mastery is. You'll become a genius in your own work if you do those things and create that output. Take your influences, put your own feelings, capacities, knowing into that, understand narratives, have a workflow, which means that your pictures look how you envisage them, so you can repeat it. It adds to your style, it adds to your worth. People buy into that, and you're not remotely interested in being the next him, the next her, the next Diane Arbus, the next, I don't know, whoever it is. You're just not interested, because all you're interested in is sucking in everything that the reality we live in has to offer you, mixing it up in your head, putting your own feelings, your own thoughts, your own vibe onto it, mixing it up, making it, editing it, putting it out to a great standard because you've done all that, and keep going. And then learn, and learn some more, and learn some more, and put that learning into your craft, and then go again. The minute you stop learning, the minute in your head you're a master, the minute you're sitting there going, I've mastered this photography, look, I'm a master now, is the day your work will go straight back down to where it started. It'll become flat, it'll become boring, it'll become arrogant, it'll become, anybody can do that. Because if there are any true masters out there, which they're not, but those purported to be them, those who carry on putting good work out, who always seem to do good work, are doing that because they're learning. They're not learning, I don't mean they're learning how to use a shutter. I mean they're learning about craft, about life, about process, about narrative, about themselves, about the people around them, about the stories they're trying to tell. They're always learning. The minute you stop learning is the minute that you must put your camera down, because you're only going to churn out. You're going to become a photocopier from that point on. You're not going to be able to do anything other than repeat. And repeating's good. Somebody buys into your style, you've got to be able to do that. But if the last picture looks the same as the next one, or the one before it and the one after it, pretty soon you become flatlined, stale. And I think that the secret is in knowing all that with a pinch of learning in between shoots. And that new learning refreshes what you were doing last time. And that for me can be enough to push you over the edge and get you up to the point where you're probably above what everybody considers to be a master anyway. So that's my thoughts on masters of photography, geniuses. They don't exist. It's a myth. It's an ego fill for most people. most people that load them should know better, but don't. They think that they probably can't attain it, so they just, oh, look at you, you're brilliant, I'll never be that good. If you don't try, you won't be. If you just kiss their arse, load them, and never really get off your arse and go and have a go yourself, you're never going to be them, are you? You're just going to be another sycophant. And the world's full of them. And then you've got the other bunch who, the sycophants, say you've got to do this to become this, so we're just getting it all wrong and never becoming anything because they're too busy trying to be something else. And then you've got people who are really good, phenomenally good, who are quite unheard of because they don't suck ass and follow the crowd. They're not sheep. They're just doing their own thing quietly. They might occasionally get a good buzz or a good gig. They might even have decided to walk a different line and just use photography to make great fucking work and don't get paid for it, which is equally as valid, if not more valid. In fact, if you're making work just for the love of doing it, it's always more valid than work you've got paid money for. If you can afford to just make work that you love and you put out there, and if people like it, they do. If they don't, they don't. If you get one like, you do. If you get a million, you do. It doesn't matter. You just love the work. If that's you, hat off to you, because you're a lot better than anybody purported to be a master, I would argue. Anyway, that's it from me today. Thanks for tuning in. Drop us a like and a subscribe and share with your mates if you thought that was any good. If you disagree, drop a comment below. Happy to have a read and see what you think about that. Other than that, thanks for tuning in. Have a great whatever day, month, week you're watching this on, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. Cheers.
Think about a way to get you out of my mind. Think about a way to get you out of my mind. Think about a way to get you out of my mind. Think about a way to get you out of my mind.